Today we're going to see how to find the inverse function of a quotient function and how to find the domain and the range of said inverse function. So remember, always the first step to find the inverse of any type of function is to write it as a cardinal notation like this. The next step is to switch the places of the variables. So where I see a y, I'm going to write an x, and where I see a x, I'm going to write a y. Now, as always, my third step is to solve for y. So the first thing I have to notice here is that I have a fraction. So to get rid of the denominator is dividing, so I have to pass it to the other side, multiplying. Then I have to simplify the left side of my equation, that is xy plus x equals 4y. Now remember that our goal is to isolate or solve for y. That means that every term that has a y has to be on the same side. And because all these terms on this side have y, that means y is a common factor. So I can factorize the y. And lastly, because I want to isolate y, I just have to pass this term dividing to the other side. And that gives us this expression. So lastly, my fourth step is to write this as the inverse function. So that's how we get the inverse function of a quotient function. Now, to find the domain and range of the inverse function, first we have to remember this. If a function f has a domain A and a range B, then its inverse function has to have domain B and range A. That means that we can find sets A and B in any specific order. That means the only thing we know so far is to find the domains of quotient functions. So if we find the domain of A, the domain of f, that is going to give us set A. And if we find the domain of the inverse function, that is going to give us set B. So let's find that. Set A, or domain of f, is found by grabbing the denominator of the f function, equate it to 0, and solve for x. So we already know that this is an invalid value. So set A is going to be all real numbers except -1. And now, to find set B, all we have to do is find the domain of the inverse function. So set B is, we grab the denominator, equate it to 0, solve for x. So we have that set B is all real numbers except 4. So now, if we're being asked to find the domain or range of any of these functions f of f inverse, we only have to specify the set A or B. In this case, the domain of f is going to be set A. So the domain of f is all real numbers except -1. Oh, sorry. The domain of f inverse is B. So that is all real numbers except 4. And the range of f, that is the second thing we're being asked, is set A. So the range of f inverse is all real numbers except -1. And that's it. That's how you find the inverse function of a quotient function, its domain, and its range.